Hello, all, and welcome to our 20th Hangout here at Hoops Hobby Hangout. I'm Joey here with Ryan, Steve, and Adam. We're looking forward to another, hour or so hanging out and talking cards. Specifically, this week, we're going to focus on all things selling cards, which I'm surprised at the fact that for how little I do sell cards, I've been pretty excited over the last few days to delve into this conversation. I feel like there's a lot we could say, and I think it's going to be exciting and a nice intricate conversation. Before we get into that, let's kind of get some updates on things. I know, Steve, you've got some stuff to share with us. So do you want to start us off?
Yeah, I got too much to share, so you guys definitely cut me off. But I think it's perfectly okay for us to dive into our NBA fandom, and even if any of us get into like other basketball fandom. But man, Ryan, your Nuggets smacked around our Celtics last night. Adam's shaking his head. I'm not gonna bash the Celtics too much here, but I said to Ryan in a group chat that I'm in with him, like, it's really impressive to see a well-coached team. I mean, the defensive intensity and just. I said, Adam, I didn't send this in the group chat because I'm sick of like the negative guy. But when the Nuggets were making their run, there was like 4 to 6 touches in the offensive end. Like they worked for like open shots, and then the Celtics would come down and have like a bad pull-up 3 or maybe 1 or 2 touches and just jack up. So kudos to Ryan. Ryan's Nuggets played the Sixers the night before or 2 nights before, and the commentary was his players on the court that played 40 minutes that nobody knows. Like they had all reserves. They're pretty injured. They came into Boston and cut down the Celtics. So that was actually a lot of fun. I don't know if you have any feedback on that, Ryan, before I go into my pickups, but that was a really fun matchup last night.
No, that Sixers game, I'm contemplating having that as like my favorite game of the year because we literally had 0 starters. We had like Zeke Naji, Jalen Pickett out there. Like,
I was going to say, who's the guy that played 40 minutes and scored 21 points? It was Pickett, right? He was trashed last night. He was breaking them up all over the place. But it was you guys moved the ball well. It was a pretty impressive win from the Nuggets.
Yeah, and we actually had some starters back for the Celtics game, which was nice to see. But like the Sixers game, why I just loved it is like it shows that, hey, anybody can really win an NBA game if you're at that caliber, because literally all those guys get maybe 4 or 5 minutes of garbage time, if that, normally. So that was really fun. But yeah, the Celtics game too it was a good time. I enjoyed it. It came down to the wire too.
I've been meaning to ask how's the Nugget life been with Sans Jokic?
I'm just hoping he comes back by the end of the month because I got some tickets for my son and I to go to the game on the 30th. So a little bit selfish there, but it seems like he's walking around and stuff. So I think when you have injuries like that, you just like make the best of it. So I got to give props to Coach Adelman for taking it in stride. And I think we were like 4-3 on our 7-game road trip, which is pretty amazing considering a lot of those were like with one starter, maybe Jamal Murray played or something like that. But yeah, it's good to see because, when Jokic comes back, we'll have an easier time. But if those guys can step it up and win some hard games, that's always nice to see.
And from an alternative fan perspective, Joe, I can tell you like the offense is definitely not doing well. Like they're inconsistent throughout the game watching the Nuggets, but their defense was impressive. Like defense is one of those things that if you get players to lock in, and we talked about at the start of this whole process for all of us, like 20 episodes ago, the Nuggets did a good job boosting their depth, and they have a lot of long players that are going to play hard, and they're one of those teams that can play defense aggressively without getting out of position, if that makes sense. So that alone, like they didn't dominate the game last night, but they really keep themselves in it. And then in the fourth quarter, they just played smarter offense than the Celtics. So they're also, I'm not saying this in a bad way, Ryan. They're lucky to be on an East Coast swing right now, so the games aren't as weighted as much. They're not going against like their rivals, right? So, but they're 3-2 in their last 5 based on what the Celtics announcers were saying last night. So it's they're well coached, they're pretty deep, and they're going to be able to like tread water until Jokic comes back. I'd say, if that's fair, Ryan. Yeah. I mean, it was a good game from both teams, but the Nuggets were definitely the more focused team last night.
Yeah, and that was the best case scenario for us, was just like win half of them if you can.
Yeah.
Perfect, while he's out.
And you're not going against the Rockets and the Clippers right now. You're going against Celtics and Philly, and I think the Raptors were in there at some point, or going to be in there at some point. So it's like teams that aren't as weighted. So it's like good as far as the injury to the best player in the world. It's like optimum situation. Other than the fact that you paid a premium for tickets and may or may not see him with your son. So
you really think he's better than Jaylen Brown?
Yes, he slightly better. Though, I mean, Adam, you got to. I mean, I know Jalen's been off, but some of these performances, I mean, we talked about it, and he like kudos to Jalen. Like his 50-point game against the Clippers were on fire, and like, I mean, he shot almost 70% from the field. He scored almost 0 points in the restricted area, and he had only 2 turnovers the whole game. Like, I can be not as hard on Jalen as Adam is, but like kudos to Jalen. Like he really has stepped up. I don't know if he can be this guy when Tatum comes back and if they can really find that balance. But that 50-point game against the Clippers was amazing. If you guys haven't seen the highlights, I mean, it really was one of the best games of the season from an individual player. So I'll give JB his love on this podcast as well.
I mean, he probably should be somewhere on the MVP ballot at this point. Sorry, Adam. That's my opinion.
That's crazy to me. That's like unbelievable.
I'm not saying he'll be a finalist or something, but he should definitely be getting some votes of some capacity.
If there should be a barometer, if you vote any placement of him on an MVP ballot, you lose your ability to vote next year.
For the
he has good moments, and I am a hater. That's like all those things can be true at once, but to be an MVP, you can't have the lows that he has. So like, that's just out of the question.
Fair point.
The counter to that, Joey, is even like the homers in Boston have been talking about how JB should be an MVP candidate because of the 65-game rule. So that might rule out 2 or 3 of the top candidates, right? So it's like, and I think JB should be an all-NBA level player. I even think he should get some votes for all defensive team. He really is one of the best players in the league. But I also can see what Adam's saying. Like, I mean, some of the lapses that he has, or even last night, some of the bad fouls that he had, really highlights some of the weaknesses in this game. So it's a catch-22. But like I said, even the Boston media is saying, like, yeah, he should be MVP because Jokic probably isn't going to make it. And, LeBron's not even going to be all NBA this year because of his absences. So they were even looking at like, okay, because these guys won't meet the criteria as opposed to what JB's play level is. So but he's been better than I thought he was going to be this year. So all credit goes to him for sure. Nice. All right. While I'm monopolizing things, let me show you guys a few cards, and then I'll pass it over to you. So the first card I brought, I wasn't going to show this, but we talked about this last week, is old school relic. So this is Bailey Howell right here. This is a card Adam knows I've been after for a while. This is a game used, and you can't see it on my camera. It is disgustingly dirty. Like, I don't know if it's blood or sweat on the white part of the jersey, but this is a game used jersey piece from the 60s. He's a Hall of Famer, 2-time champion from the Celtics. Played for multiple teams, but this is obviously a game used Celtics piece. So I thought I'd share that based on what we ended last week's conversation on, just how these old school jersey pieces are super cool. And then I got in another WNBA card. So the first ever WNBA game I took my daughter to was in 2022, and I was a fan of the WNBA. I wasn't following it super close, but I got to see the Connecticut Sun versus Las Vegas Aces, which little did I know would be a preview of the WNBA Finals this year. So this is Alyssa Thomas, who, for the non-WNBA fans, I think is like the WNBA's version of Charles Barkley. Like, she is legitimately a point forward. She's dominating. Unfortunately, she happens to also exist when the WNBA's version of Michael Jordan exists. But this is a Timeless Moments autograph on card auto, which you guys should be familiar with, the Timeless Moments set of her triple-double from the 2022 WNBA Finals. So that was like, this is our first ever on-card auto, and being a Connecticut Sun, and from that first season I took my daughter to a game, that was a pretty cool piece.
Nice.
And then,
really nice.
Yeah, they did Ryan, they did a lot of the cards they try to like recreate like the Kobe version where they have like players celebrating finals wins. They're kind of weak photos, but this one's actually an in-game photo. It's her celebrating during a triple-double, which is kind of nice. I think a lot of it they did sort of go weak with some of the photos, and it could have been a better set. But I'm really happy with this one.
I like those celebration photos myself.
Yeah,
cool.
They went a little heavy with it. Like, you know what I mean? Like they have like Brianna Stewart, which is probably a player you guys know, who's going to go down as one of the all-time greats. They have her celebrating on the floor with confetti, which is pretty cool. But then they have Asia Wilson, who's had like some of the most iconic finals moments in WNBA history, and it's just her like holding up her MVP t-shirt, so it's like, and like many of the players, even like the retired and the current players, they went a little too heavy with that. So like the Brianna Stewart photo I think is awesome. Like she's literally on the floor like sprawled out with like confetti on her. Like how cool is that? But I think they went a little heavy with some of the other ones kind of being a little generic. And then I told Joey I'd share these. So we talked about silhouette a lot. So I've got a pair. The last 2 days, my 2 mail days, have been some Jay Crowder silhouette patches. Same set, so it's a thread set. One, and I can't tell. Geez. We have an out of 49 here. This is the bronze parallel. And we have the out of 10 gold hollow parallel here. And I mean, you cannot tell the difference between the two. The interesting part is the out of 49 parallel. This is only the second copy I've ever seen that has an actual patch on it. Most of them are napkin relics. So it's just like highlighting how crazy this set is. And I think it's going to be for like the LeBron and I don't know, SGA collectors of the world. It's going to be really chaotic for them down the line because nobody's going to fake a Jay Crowder patch. And I have enough of these to prove that this is legitimate. But if you have a LeBron patch and it's a Heat patch and it's 10 years from now and 3 of them are napkin relics and then one of them has like a 3-colored number patch for the same serial number, it's going to be kind of chaotic. So I thought that was kind of an interesting 2 different cards in the same back-to-back days that just highlight the difference in that set. I know we've talked about a lot, so I thought I'd share that one.
So odd that like has in crazy patches just in all throughout. Some of the non-numbered stuff even has really wild patches too. So.
And even the fact that Ryan, that both of mine are like I have enough of these Suns jersey patches to know like the difference. Like it's a City Edition jersey. The fact that an out of 49 and out of 10 both have number patches, like we've seen in the past with Panini, where like they might do for like an out of 25 just the team logo across the chest, and the out of 10 might be all number patches. The fact that they're all random pieces of jersey is even more confusing. Like it's not just like all the out of 5s are the sponsor patches and all the out of 2s are logo men or anything. It's really kind of chaotic, which
I mean,
I think it's fun. Go ahead.
Sorry, there are some that are like unnumbered that are tags.
Yeah.
It's wild.
Yeah. I've seen some Marcus Smart ones that are unnumbered that are like Memphis jersey pieces that are like 4 or 5 colors. It's wild. So wouldn't want to be investing in it, that's for sure, but it's fun to kind of collect a low end player. I mean, both of these, I probably paid less than $15 for these 2 cards. Like I know one of them $4 shipped, and the other one I won for $3 plus shipping in a bubble mailer. So
yeah,
well under $15 for the 2 of them. So
that's a no brainer. Yeah, I'm hoping too for like low end Kings for me that I can start getting those really nice looking patches for super cheap. That's what I'm hoping over time it turns into.
For sure. All right. I talked way too much. Anybody else have any updates of what they've been up to as far as a fan or from a collecting perspective?
I do have something, unless you guys want to go first.
No, go ahead.
So I got this. This is a game issued.
Okay.
Harris warm up. So
nice.
On the Magic.
I unmuted myself just so I can laugh.
The reason I got this is because it was cheap. So it's got the NBA 75th little logo on it, and then like kind of a cool Magic patch and stuff like that. So this was listed as game worn, but it's not game worn. So I'm kind of new to the whole, memorabilia game. But if you get it, this is a Migraves one. So if you get Migraves, they'll usually have a certificate with it, or like a letter of authenticity or whatever it is. And you have to read that. So if it's in the option, read it, even if it says game worn. In this case, it was game issued, so likely not worn. But I paid the price that I would pay for something like that. So picked it up because it was prepared for the player, and the way they designate that on a lot of them is they just write the player number on the tag.
Yep.
Yeah. So designated for him during the game. Now, could he have maybe worn it and it just got thrown back in the pile? Sure, but you have to take those as they're non-game worn. So paid $65 for it. I'm cool with that.
Nice.
That's awesome. I paid so good related story, Ryan, and I'm sure I've told you this before in group chats, but I paid $75 for a Paul Pierce, and it's from McGrath's, and it does say game worn. A warm-up like shooting shirt from his time with the Brooklyn Nets. It's a Year of the Horse, Chinese New Year jersey back when they did that. And when Adam was up for a show in Boston, he was there for a signing. I handed it to him, and he paused the line, was like, he recognized it, and he saw the jersey number. He's like, "Why'd you have this? This is mine." So if you can ever get a chance to get Harris to sign that, I highly recommend it, because it's a very unique piece. To
that'd be sweet.
Even if they didn't wear it, it's part of their connection to the game.
Yeah.
And, the second I handed it to Pierce, he looked at the tag and recognized that it was his. He recognized the way they write it and everything. So it was pretty cool.
Yeah, they wrote that out for me. I was supposed to wear that, and I got a Gallinari warm up as well from the same seller. Probably a couple months ago. It was the same deal. I wait till they show sale on eBay, and then I don't lowball offer, but I offer lower than that, and then they usually trying to get rid of it, so they accept it. Yeah. I don't know if you'd be able to do that with players that are more desirable, but that's kind of how I go after those things. And again, I'm kind of a rookie to the whole memorabilia thing, but I figure it's issued by the team, which is really cool. It's got the same patches you're going to get in the cards that you buy, and you get the full patch. You get that full 75th anniversary logo, which is kind of cool. So to me, it's that's probably a $100 piece if you bought it off the shelf at least, and it's really nice quality. So.
And for everybody listening, before we got on live, we were talking about all of Ryan's figurines in the background. He said he wasn't buying them because they took up too much space, and now he's buying full jerseys. So,
yeah, exactly. I don't know what I'm doing. I was I got to stick the cards to keep it from overflowing. But yeah, I got too much stuff. Collector at heart, I guess.
Adam, you got anything, or should we jump in?
I didn't really get much in. I was going to throw up, since it'll be probably 6 months before I get it from Fanatics. I did a little investing in Silhouette. Got this coming in eventually.
That is 202?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Tice championship tag.
You didn't tell me about that. That's awesome.
I have to save some secrets for the live so I get genuine reactions.
What's up with this? What's up? The rumors are people complaining about Fanatics shipping is pretty intense. What's going on with all that?
So I don't know. I bought that after I requested a shipment, so I was never going to get it super quickly because I usually wait for a few weeks of sales to accumulate. But I requested a shipment on the 27th of December, and have yet to even get it's being packaged updates or anything. So I don't know what's going on. But yeah, I've seen a lot of people complaining. Pretty much every auction house through the holiday area has been very backed up.
Yeah, it's understandable, I guess.
To some degree. I mean, if you bought from MC
Adam
Sports
could have requested from Card Hobby on the 27th and had the cards by now, though, and they're in China.
Right, yeah.
There is
and you look at a consignor like MC Sports on eBay. If you were buying something from them, they might sell the same quantity of cards as Fanatics does once a week, every day, and they'll have them shipped out to you in a day or two. So, and you pay the most premium to these auction houses who, on most transactions, scoop 20% of the sale. So you would think that they would be able to get them out a little bit quicker, have a team afford it because of it, but it is what it is. We keep buying there, so we can't say much.
Well, Mark said in the chat it took 3 weeks for him to get tracking from Fanatics, so maybe that'll give you an idea of what.
But not ideal, but it is what it is.
Yeah, but on that note, welcome everyone in the chat: Sean, Mark, Hugo, Crazy One, you guys are all hanging out. So thanks for hanging out. Just before we jump in, QR code, if anyone wants to jump on with us, is on the screen. And then I put it in the front at the top of the chat if anyone wants to jump on. Otherwise, we'll love hanging out with you guys through the chat too. Before we jump in, just want to thank you again, Steve, for the series of Crowder cards you sent me. I like a gold optic gold, which is pretty crazy. And then I really get to that Dixie Cup thing we were talking
Dixie
about,
Cup.
the Jazz parallel. I really see it now. I didn't know what you were talking about. I thought it was literal cups, but yeah, I do feel like I'm looking at a Dixie Cup from,
So I looked it. I didn't know about it. I looked it up, and actually a friend that collects baseball cards filled me in. But apparently, the whole Jazz textured look is an artwork design that was picked up by the Dixie Cup company. So they called it Jazz for a reason. Like that Jazz style has nothing to do with the cup. So creative, again, I said it last week, very creative on Panini's part to do that backlog into paper cups from the 80s. But why did they make I think it's a hobby release only parallel. So why did they make a parallel out of that? I have no idea.
It also reminds me of Saved by the Bell. I don't know why I look at it and I just see Saved by the Bell.
Kelly Kabowski would be so proud.
Yeah. But yeah, Steve's getting some much deserved love in the chat. So thank you again. But like I said, we're going to talk about selling cards today. So we should probably jump into that. I mentioned at the beginning, I was excited to talk about this. And when Steve posed it as an idea, it was literally maybe an hour after I had sold a card on eBay, my first card that I sold on eBay in a couple months or something. And at some point I was going back and I was realizing, wow, I probably did a bad job selling this card because it was part of a lot that I got over the summer that included some Isaiah Thomas cards. I think I mentioned it last week and stuff, but so I was just trying to sell off some of the extras, and it was a Michael Porter Jr. card. And then I know obviously he got traded away from the Nuggets. I feel like I had checked comps to see what the card was worth, but that specific card hadn't sold for a while. So then it got hit. The bin got hit. I did it buy it now best offer, and the bin got hit within an hour or two. I was like, oh, interesting. I thought I was listing it too high, whatever. I started looking at other rookie autos of his, and they've probably doubled or tripled in price this season. I guess he's doing well for the Nets. I talked to Tim. I talked to Tim Forkbeard Sports Cards, who's always here with us, who's hanging out with us all the time. And he said that Porter had been doing really well, and it just didn't click with me that his cards had, I don't want to say exploded in price, but it's his cards that were $20 before are $50 now. And it's not leaving $30 on the table is the end of the world. But it just reminded me how bad I am at this. It's selling cards and trading cards. It's just so out of my nature to do it well. So I still don't know how much it would actually be worth. I think it was a select auto, an on-card select auto from his rookie season. And I think it's all his autos, rookie autos that are listed for, $30 or less are just getting hit with the bins. I don't know how quickly, but another a Prism auto, those are stickers, granted, was purchased yesterday or the day before for $25 plus shipping. I listed mine for 20 plus shipping, and the auctions, which I guess were maybe from last season, were ending at $10 to $15. I was like, oh, somebody will offer it and I'll just accept anything over $10 or whatever. It just got hit. So I just thought it was funny. I'm so bad at this, but I just thought it was a funny story, and it kind of got me excited to discuss, how I could do better at this thing.
I'm going to say to you, Joey, actually good sale. To be honest with you, and not to crap all over MPJ, but I think that's a great time to sell. And if there's a player that all of a sudden stuff spikes and you can just post it for what the average comps are and just sell it to someone who wants to flip it and get full asking price, I think that's a great sale. To be honest with you, I think that's a great sale. Michael Porter Jr. is not going to be the next great thing. And when he retires, hopefully people remember him, but he's a fine player. He could throw out his back and be done for the season tomorrow. You know what I mean? So I think to actually say, hey, this card's spiking right now at 50. I'm going to post it at 30, which is what it traditionally sells for, and let someone hit the bin, I think is actually a really smart move. So I'm gonna counter everything you're saying and say good job. I think that's a really smart way to sell cards, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
Unintentional, but thank you.
Yeah, and Brooklyn beat up the Nuggets the other night too, and he kind of went
revenge game.
off. Yeah, so I've seen that he's putting up pretty good stats, but he's playing on Brooklyn this season, so it's you got to figure that there's like a fan base when that player comes over to another team. There's going to be that fan base that wants their cards, that wants their rookie cards. So that, like Steve said, that's a great time to sell because you can recognize that, oh, maybe I have a bunch of his cards. Now that's got me thinking about all the Porter Jr. that I have that I could list. But yeah, I think to your point though, on selling at the right time, there's really no right time to sell. There's really no right price to get. It's all kind of a game of chance in a way. We can look at like average sales. You can use tools like 130 point. I don't know if you guys use that, but I use it quite frequently for comps. I know a lot of people like Card Ladder as a means for comps, but just getting close. And I honestly don't try to make top dollar either, because I'm not really in the flipper mindset. My mindset comes in if I can move some cards that don't really fit in a PC or don't really fit something I'm going after at the time. Maybe I bought them a couple of years ago and I can get a little bit of money because, like you said, like a guy gets hot or, the new fan base is coming along to buy it. Perfect time to sell. And if I'm not making every little last cent, then the next guy can try, right?
Yeah, and to be fair, it's like I have some of his stuff on ComC, and the crazy one mentions selling on ComC, which I love too. I have some of his numbered rookies. I think they're from Chronicles or something, part of that lot too. And I sent them in when they did their free grading promo in the spring or whatever. And those haven't sold. And I don't think they're necessarily that high. I mean, I definitely don't have them. I don't know. I don't even remember what I have them listed at, but yeah, it's not like everything's going crazy, but just, yeah, I thought it was a little funny. But Steve, you posed this idea kind of on what to talk about over the weekend. What was the impetus for that? Like,
honestly, I didn't share this with you guys, but I was honestly just thinking about like, what can we talk about? And I think we've done a good job of like sharing that we, for the most part, we collect for the point of like owning this stuff, right? Like none of us are busting wax. We're not breaking anything like that. And honestly, Joey, what I was thinking about was we were talking about, I forget if it was Pristine or Caleb or whoever asked about like, what are we going to do when we get towards the end of our lives and do with our collection? I said, I hope to unload some of this stuff and not burn my kids with it. And all three of you guys were like, my kids, I'll be long gone. I'm collecting till I go. I'm holding on to this stuff. I'm going to burden my kids with it. But at the same time, like I know for a fact I facilitated Adam buying cards from Ryan. I've bought cards from Adam. Adam's bought cards from me. I've had story sales. So even though all of us have that mentality of, I want to just like collect for the sake of owning stuff, we all do sell stuff at times. And I was thinking with the new year, I know there's people setting goals about, changing their collecting habits or downsizing or, selling up into larger cards, and just how do we all go about it? So as those of us that aren't buying wax and breaking or grading to flip, et cetera, what approaches do we all take to selling cards, and what have we found success with, and what do we, maybe not find as much success with, as far as whether it be like return on investment or just like ease of transactions, et cetera, et cetera. So that was the impetus for it, Joe. And I'm going to completely mute myself and not share anything. I'll let you guys kind of chat a little bit. With that said,
coincidentally, IndyCar Cards mentioned that's one of his hobby goals for 2026. So right in line with what you observed. Yeah. So Ryan, Adam, do you guys have any initial thoughts on what Steve's saying?
I mean, obviously, as Steve said, I've bought and sold cards to him before. I've bought cards from other people in the group. I would venture to say I probably sell more than most people in here. I do shows somewhat often, regional ones like Indianapolis I'll set up at, or Nashville, or a small one here or there. Then I'll do occasional story sales or sell a card or two on eBay. Oddly enough, sold my first one in forever, like you, Joey. Just today I shipped it out, actually. So just kind of random. In that situation, it was just I bought a bunch of stuff from a guy in Australia, and he happened to have this Steve Kerr Prism silver auto from the first year, number to 25. And I felt like it was worth a good bit more money than what he had it listed for. So I bought it, and I was right. I bought it for 80 Australian dollars, which is like 50 something American, and I sold it on eBay for 200. So worked out well, and basically got me a free card out of the bunch that I bought from him already. And that's kind of what I do. I don't necessarily go searching for deals to find things or hunt collections, make posts about it. But if I can buy 10 cards I want and 3 cards I don't to offset some of the 10, I will buy the 13 and make a few dollars on the other 3 to offset the rest.
Yeah, you do a great job with that. That's what I'm trying to do with the Isaiah Thomas lot. So hopefully it eventually gets me a little bit of relief from the however many $100 I spent on that.
Yeah, it can be tough. Like getting the full value back isn't usually what I do either. It sounds good in theory to do it that way, but I'm always out cash, just trying to limit the amount of cash I put out. And my thing too is like so many people who do set up and do shows or do things differently than me. Like I don't buy anything that I'm not content with keeping. So like so many people go out and buy kabooms if they can get a good enough deal or whatever it may be, and that does nothing for me. So I never look at those types of things for return on investment or anything like that. But if I can find a nice lot of stuff that's all in my wheelhouse, I'll buy it. And once they come in, if some of them don't fit where I thought they would be, or if I have too much of that player, once I start putting them away, whatever it may be, I'll put the rest aside and sell stuff at shows or story sales and whatnot.
Yeah, no, it's a great idea. Hugo, I would definitely flip some Willie Cauley-Stein. I just wish I had some good stuff. If you guys don't mind, there's a couple of things that came in because we elicited feedback from the community in terms of thoughts, ideas, questions, whatever. There were a couple of things that came in, not a ton. So Hoops Hobby went and sent in this, and his tip was if you want a steady stream of sales, you have to regularly list new cards. And he said in there that obvious that you need to do that. And I mean, I definitely agree. I think that, you know, I have some stuff posted on my eBay kind of for 6 months or a year. It's probably not going to sell if it hasn't sold yet. Maybe that means I need to decrease the price, maybe whatever. But also like I'm just starting to list different stuff so that I could sell the stuff that I don't want anymore. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on that, but it's definitely true. Like if you care about trying to generate funds to buy new cards or whatever, like you can go through that cycling.
There's definitely something with staying in the algorithm of posting so many. I think I saw a video on it. It was something completely separate from cards, just an eBay selling video. And the person has it set up to where 10 items get listed every day of the week. And they have it to where if they have 15 ready to go on one day, they have the other 5 postponed to the next day. There's something to do with that algorithm setup of 10 consistent new listings really pushes you up the listings and gives you better maybe showcasing of the listings in a kind of clouded market. But even like the item I just told you I sold, the Steve Kerr, I had no interest in really selling stuff during Christmas seasons. I didn't want to have to deal with that. So I didn't mess with anything for a while, and it was sitting up. I relisted it, ended the listing and relisted it, and immediately got an offer that same day. So, I mean, there's something to be said for that too, just popping it back up to the top versus just letting it sit in the mix of 200 Steve Kerr autos on eBay.
Yep. It's the new items search that people have, because there can be a card that I've followed on, eBay, and I'm like, oh, that I want to go after that card, and I forget about it. And then when it drops off and gets relisted, I'll see it again. And so there's definitely something about that. And I think he's probably more talking about if you're selling a bunch of cards, I would imagine, right? To whereas I think everybody in this room now, all of us talking here, probably don't sell as much. So we're not going to have like a steady stream of stuff.
Right.
But that makes sense for like a actual seller. You're trying to make some money on eBay. You do want that, like, this is going to hit somebody's saved search today because they're searching for Steve Kerr autos or whatever they're searching for, and it pops up as the first thing in their little list. Because it, you get the like highlights in those eBay emails, right? So there's maybe like 5 to 8 cards or whatever it is, and then you have to click for the rest. So if you can get in that little list of stuff, you're probably going to be seeing.
Yeah, and
another thing that's interesting. Sorry to cut you off, Joey, but just follow up with what Ryan said, just because it's kind of a counter a little bit what Ryan said. I will say that I think the hard work pays off, right? So I don't know if any of us in that, I guarantee that none of us on this chat right now are at that level. I'm not even talking profit, but enough where we sell to cover the cost of our hobby. I think we all put cash in the hobby to own the crap that we own, right? But I think to the point of, even if you're just at that level of trying to keep that, maintain a steady balance, we all know the people on ComC, we all know the film million names on eBay, we all know the people that do story sales, that even if they're not like flipping stuff, but they're just constantly posting the stuff that they have, that work does pay off, right? Like they're just going to move that. It's almost like they have a live card show at all times. Whereas for myself, I might set up at a card show once every 6 months because a friend says, hey, do you want to share a table with me? I'll send stuff to ComC once every 6 months in bulk. And I only, like Adam did, like I sold a Caitlin Clark card that I just wanted to get, I pulled it in a pack with my daughter and I just wanted to get out from under it because it was worth something. I posted that on eBay. That's the only time I'm going to post on eBay. But like nobody's searching for cards, knows my name on eBay. Nobody's looking at my, like I might have a story post on Instagram because it's like something snarky about like a Lego or something. People aren't looking for that for a story sale, right? So I do think to, not just about like Hoops Hobby said, it's not just about steady stream of stuff for sales. It's about like putting the work in does pay out, even if you're not looking for a huge profit. So I do think there's something to be said for that, that people that do want to sell stuff, if they put the work in and they are just like constantly making themselves available as a seller, I do think that pays off and people pay attention to it more.
Yeah, I mean, it's effectively building a following, right? There's the people, like you said, on Instagram where they have such a big following, they can probably sell things for above eBay comps. Even I see Facebook sales of people that, because they have enough people buying cards off them and doing so in multiple transactions and combining shipping with them, they could list a card that sells for $10 shipped. They can list it for $10 with not including shipping because they have enough people buying with them that's just going to get included into the shipment. So yeah, totally. It's that following in any platform that definitely helps. On the idea of kind of getting your listings seen or getting them up in the algorithm, there's somebody mentioned a good point on some podcast I was listening to, which is the promotion, the 2% promo fee that you could pay on eBay to get your listings promoted, and you pay it obviously when you sell the card. They say, and I guess they're right, it's worth it, right? Because my cards that have been sitting there, if I have a $10 card that's been sitting there for a year and it hasn't sold, and I promote it, pay an extra 2%, I'm paying 15% in fees instead of 13%, but then I get that sale. It's definitely worth it. So it's, just something else to consider in terms of prioritizing your listings in the algorithms. The other thing that came in was from Sean, who's here now. So hopefully this is, it was tongue in cheek, but I imagine it was tongue in cheek, but he can correct me if I'm wrong. He says, are you saying it's okay to sell sports cards as a collector? So yeah, again, I imagine that's tongue in cheek because I think we all feel that way. I mean, we all just mentioned that we do. But it kind of, I guess, segues into a question I thought about when it comes to this question. This question made me think of that, and I think you kind of elicited or alluded to it, Steve, which is kind of what role does collecting play, or sorry, does selling play in your collections? I mean, you kind of mentioned, Steve, you're not selling to fund your hobby per se, like you're putting in your personal funds. But I guess what are the ways that you guys, or what are the possible ways that selling could play a role in the collection as a whole? And then I'll kind of share the thoughts I had. But if you guys could
I think it's important to Joey to like think about what you're trying to collect for, right? So if you had talked to me back in 2012 when hobby boxes were cheap and I was just like reliving my childhood through like an early midlife crisis, I was ripping wax of low-end products, right? Crusade, Brilliance, Prestige, etc. And instantly I would sell any of the cards I didn't want so that I could go out and either buy singles from that same product that I did want or buy another hobby box, right? So that was like, and at that point, stuff was so cheap that I could sell the quote unquote hits and then buy another $100 box, right? Like Prism was $75 to $100 a box. Prestige was probably $65. Crusade was $65 a box. So you could pull a Kyrie Irving relic card and sell it for, half the cost of a box, right? So back then, yes, Sean Marquis was released back in 2012. Yes, I wasn't busting any of that. And then, like, if you move back into like the 2019, 2020 range, I was selling all of my lower end stuff that was very liquid, right? So my Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum rookies, my Paul Pierce base tops rookies, etc. And then taking the funds and consolidating, right? So that whole idea of like selling up. So all of my Paul Pierce exquisite cards that I have came from selling base cards that were graded, Alonzo Mourning graded rookies, et cetera, Shaq graded rookies, et cetera, setting those funds aside and then buying something that I otherwise couldn't afford. And now that I'm in my mid 40s and kids and like space is a premium, I've talked before about like organizing my collection. Once I start to spill out of the 4-row boxes I have, I will quote unquote trim the fat. So I will sell cards simply to open up space so that I can then go buy more cards, right? Because I don't want to like overload myself. So I think the whole selling thing is really about, like, for me personally, what's my goal of collecting? Am I trying to get bigger cards? Like, I would not have a Tom Brady auto if I didn't sell cards back in 2022, or I would have too many cards right now that I love all of them and I can afford all of them, but they take up too much space, right? Or back in 2012, I couldn't have afforded while going through grad school to be ripping wax at the rate I wanted to. And by that, I mean like a box every 3 months is a treat to myself, but I didn't have that money, right? So it's like, it's really about like, what's your goal of collecting? And I reference Adam all the time just because we talk all the time, but I've literally reached out to him and been like, I want to like clear up space in my collection. Do you need any of these? Right. So like, that's my approach right now to selling is like, and I'll go through my collection every few months and just put like a couple of low-end cards aside in a 1-row box and be like, these will go off to ComC at some point. So I'm always just thinking about like trimming the fat right now. But none of it's about like trying to get, like, I'm not looking for like a certain amount of money back or anything like that, but that's my current goal. A few years from now, when my daughter is, old enough to drive, maybe I'm selling stuff to raise money for a car, right? So I think it's about the goal and what I'm trying to do with the cards that dictates why and how I'm selling. Does that answer kind of where you're going with this, Joey?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
You're add or
I can add something real quick. Yeah, because I think that's very similar to what I do, Steve. I need to get better at consolidation though, because some of my bins are overflowing, and I kind of consider like some of my PCs sunk cost. Gallinari, Gary Harris is pretty much sunk cost. But I was collecting like side PCs for a while. So during the 2020-2021 boom, I actually sold a bunch of stuff to be able to afford my Jamal Murray logo man. That was like the goal, was to sell a bunch of graded cards and put towards that card. So that's kind of part of the process that I do. If I see a card that I want and that, maybe get those funds and keep those funds until something comes up. I'm really bad at that though. I usually just end up selling it, but a lot of times, like in the heat of the moment, I'll be like, okay, let me just move a bunch of stuff so I can move into a bigger card. Honestly, haven't done it that much in past years. That was, more a thing where us collectors have been in it for a while and we're seeing all these base cards going nuts. Or like, well, you kind of have to. But I also ended up picking up a lot of like the stuff that's popular now back then as well. So like the Star Ruby stuff, that goes for crazy amounts. Not necessarily PMGs, but that type of card, the 90s cards that people want. And I've been selling a lot of that recently, and honestly, like putting it outside of the hobby. Like I bought some land in the mountains and sold some cards to like put into that cost to acquire that with my brother. So like just stuff that comes up, and maybe you have something is like, I like that Star Ruby card, but I also like $2,000 or whatever, somebody's willing to pay for it. So it's kind of like, you have to think, do you want that in your PC? Is it going to be a huge loss? To me, if it's not a Nuggets card, because I'm a big team collector, I like my sets, probably won't sell that stuff. Maybe eventually down the road, if it becomes to the point where it's like, why would I not do this? But so far it's been like side PCs that I was just collecting of like cool sets or something that suddenly everybody wants this year. Don't mind moving it to either put towards like another car, like I said, or even take out of the hobby. And, that's kind of the approach that I take. I know a lot of people will get extra inventory in to flip and stuff. I've never really done that necessarily. Sometimes I'll end up with cards in like a trade deal. And I think actually I was reading, MGS Sports Cards, Mark. He's got a great newsletter and he's talking about trading today. I read through it. And that's kind of like the lost art form almost, right? Is trading. So I wanted to mention that real quick too, is if you do a trade and you acquire some cards that maybe you weren't like super excited about, but they got thrown into the deal to make the deal work, those can also be used to sell as well. So losing my train of thought, so I'll leave it at that.
No, I think that's a good point. I just want to, so Adam, like the two things you guys said, I have in the past picked up cards that I want to pick up for inventory. And I haven't set up, like I'm just busy, like my kids are older now, but when my kids are younger, I used to set up at a local card show pretty regularly. And I would go into ComC or like go through story sales and I'd pick up stuff that I thought would move really well locally in the Boston area. But to Adam's point, I would never pick up anything that I wouldn't want to be stuck with. So like I'd pick up like I remember one of the cards was a Paul Pierce, Robert Parrish dual patch, which is just an odd combination. But I grabbed that. I didn't want it. But had I ever been stuck with that for $25, I'd be pretty cool owning that card as a Pierce collector and a Celtics collector, right? So, unlike Ryan has like an insane backlog. Like the stuff that he randomly posts in a story sale, I'm like, where did you come up with this stuff? Like he's got stuff from the '90s and early 2000s that I just don't have. So, as someone that is like newer than say Adam or Ryan to the collecting space, like I have picked up stuff for inventory, but I would never pick up a Brandon Ingram patch or auto card because I just don't want to own, like I don't want to own a Brandon Ingram card. So it's always stuff that I want to make sure I own so that if I didn't move it, then I could have it long term and be happy with it.
The thing that I run into when I do that is I'm like, and this is my issue. So it's probably a bigger conversation, not one for today, is the whole consolidating thing. And Ryan, you mentioned that you need to consolidate. And my problem, and I don't even know that I care to consolidate. I don't think that I view lower end or cheaper cards as inferior to higher or more expensive cards. I had mentioned before, I'd much rather, and I mean, logo men are an exception because of just how crazy they've gotten in terms of value, but I'd much rather spend, a quarter of the price of a logo man or half the price of a logo man and get 20 or 30 great cards over, spend $1,000 on one logo man or $1,500 on one logo man or whatever. But I think that's really different than most of I would say the general collecting populace now. For most collectors, I feel like if you're not consolidating, you're not, and I hate to say this, like collecting right, because why are you wasting your time? Like, why am I wasting my time on, $3 shipped Donruss lasers when I could like take my 30 different Donruss lasers and buy a $100 card? And I don't necessarily see it that way. I think there's, to me, in just my opinion, there's been a little bit of a overemphasis on consolidating as the right way to collect. So I guess my point to what you're saying, Steve, is if I buy anything Kings, pretty much Kings, it's in my PC and I like it. And that's why I got it. And I don't want to get rid of it. Now, like you were saying, Ryan, I have side PCs, like I can collect players I like that aren't Kings players, like Giannis or Westbrook or Tim Duncan or whatever. So if I see an opportunity, depending on what card I'm after or whatever, like I'll move a couple more expensive of those cards to get a nice Kings card if I need to. But yeah, I don't know. Those are just some thoughts on what you guys were saying.
No, that's a good point, Joe. And I want to pivot a little bit. I'm going to put Adam on the spot here as someone that, like I've mentioned a few times, when I do set up at a show, it's a very small local show. It's one of those like every month shows, like 60 to 90 tables. Adam is someone that has set up at some of the bigger regional shows. Like any feedback from us noobs as far as like how you approach because I know for a fact, I know what your inventory is that you bring to a show. It's different. It's going to be It's going to be vintage cards. It's going to be Hall of Fame. It's not going to be anything slabbed and shiny like you see. So what's like when you're setting up for a show or you're thinking about even going to a show and just walking around with your stuff, like how are you approaching that process?
Yeah, so I mean, for me, it really depends. So, like, if you're going to go to set up at a small local show, in my opinion, I struggle at those. So, like, I'll take stuff that I would take to the same show, like the same inventory I take to Nashville or I take to Indy. Those are the two I set up at most frequently. And just it doesn't really have the same appeal because most people there are trying to buy. There's nothing wrong with it, but they're trying to buy the $2, $5, $10 cards of local teams. And if I have a $2, $5, $10 Reds or Bengals card that's local teams to me locally, I'm not going to sell it because I just would rather have it for myself. So like that inventory I have isn't really accommodating the interest in the room. But then when I go set up at a more regional show with 500 plus tables or whatever it is, you start getting more people. And funny enough, I don't really appreciate a lot of the things that happen in the hobby. This is for another conversation in the sense of like breaking and repacks and things like that. But they simply pay better than most people in the space, which is kind of funny. But like if I go set up at Indy or I go set up at Nashville, I can almost guarantee that more than half of my sales will be to someone that is not the end user of the card, not a collector. And then the same could be said for if that end collector came up to the table, they would offer me less money than the person who isn't the end collector would. So there's a lot of different angles to it. But when I take stuff like that to a bigger regional show, it's not necessarily to appeal to one individual person. It's to kind of have a broad brush, to have something for the vintage guy, something for the patch auto guy, and everything in between, but not the kabooms or the shiny slabs that you see at 90% of the tables.
Yeah, and that's a no-brainer, right? Because what are they paying? Like 90% of comps or something. You get more from them than you would selling on eBay or selling, even the PayPal fees that you get out. So it's definitely a great move.
Yeah, and it's funny too because like that's the other thing too I didn't add there. Most of the stuff I sell doesn't have direct comps. I'd say vast majority of it because it's not stuff that's numbered to 500. That's a blue parallel from Prism or whatever. It's something that's a 03 auto that hasn't sold on eBay in 4 years. So it's like the comp is kind of up for debate. And a lot of times in my experience, when somebody is a collector, and I'm at fault for this too. If you came up to me and you're like, I have this Bill Russell auto that hasn't sold in 6 years, to me it's just another Bill Russell auto unless it's one I've been hunting. So I'm going to compare it to something that is readily available, or maybe I bought recently for $300 or $400, where in your mind you think it's special because it hasn't sold in 6 years. So as the collector in me, I'm thinking, well, if I can buy something that's equally cool to me for $300 or $400, I would just do that rather than pay you $5. Whereas the repackers may look at it and say, well, based off Card Ladder's algorithm, they say it went from 300 in 2022 to now 600. I'll pay you 500 for it. So it's a lot less kind of, I don't know, sunk cost to them. It's just, I know I could put this in a repack and get my money right back out of it. Whereas I'm looking at it like, well, I could use the same money and get something I prefer. And it just doesn't add up the same way for the average collector, in my opinion. Like I said, as a collector myself, I'm sure there's many times I want to pay less for things than a repacker would, just because I know what I bought them for in the past. I know what I could probably get one for in the future, finding a good deal or whatever. And the repacker just needs quantity. They need to be able to get all the products filled. And I've sold tons of cards to repackers that if I showed you to, you'd be like, it's $100 card, and they paid me $500 for it because it's rare and unique, and they like that kind of stuff. So I mean, it kind of shakes out in the wash for them. They don't care to overpay or pay up for things that are unique, whereas the collector would be so honing in on, oh man, this is too much money, or this could be had in a different variation, or whatever it may be. And so it just makes it a kind of a different sell to each different person in the hobby.
Well, I think that makes a lot of sense, Adam, based on what we've talked about over the last few weeks, is because in the end, like you're from like a consumerism perspective, you're the end user, right? Like I'm buying this because I want to own it versus like obviously a repack company. I'm not disparaging them at all. They're not the end user. They're looking at it. So we have inventory to fill. We value this inventory, this level. This is where our numbers are at. And there's such a different lens that we look at things through. And there's only so many markets that we all function in our day-to-day lives where there's that much of a discrepancy between the end user and the people on the other side of the table, right? And so I think that's a great perspective when you say you're valuing the dollar, because I can get a different Bill Russell that I think is just as cool for me, that meets my needs as the end user, and still have $200 in my pocket to then go and buy my wife dinner or go get another card, versus like this is just one step in the process. So I think that's a really that's a very fair take on things. And I think very, very telling.
That's the type of table that I would gravitate towards, Adam, as far as your table. Because, yeah, so much is kind of just looks the same. It's all slabs. It's all modern. When I go to a card show, I seek out the weird stuff, like the vintage non-sports, or like guys that have like comic cards or something cool like that, just to see what's going on. If you guys don't mind, I got a good comment here from Nebrolian that I wanted to answer real quick. Sorry, was that the one? Here it is. Sorry. Do you think that without social media, people would feel less inclined to consolidate? I would say probably so, because there is a big push nowadays, and it goes back to what you were talking about, Joey, is that there is a big push to consolidate, but if you don't own a lot of stuff and you don't have like a ton of, maybe side PCs like I was talking about, what do you really consolidate? So I feel like consolidating couldn't be a couple of different things. So you can consolidate into a quote unquote big card like I've done. You can consolidate into just having cash available. A lot of times I'll do that to buy sunk cost cards like my Gallinari and my Gary Harris stuff. So, to answer his question more directly, though, I think there is more of a bigger push nowadays for people on social media because they've been around for a couple of years. They maybe joined during the boom in 2020. Now they've accumulated some stuff and they perceive it as all junk because they're not necessarily seeing that all the time on social media. People like to post their most valuable card on there and get likes and comments and all that. But it really comes down to like what's your goal with collecting. Mine, for Gallinari, it was just like I see something cool that I've never seen before. It could be a $6 card. And if I have some funds available, because I consolidated other cards, cool, I grabbed that card. Like I recently grabbed this one. I think it was when it was on the Hawks. But yeah, I think it was a Hawks card, and it had like a milestone where he hit like 10 3-point shots in a game or something cool. I was like, that's a cool card. It was like listed at $6 and nobody else bid on it but me. But to me, that was like I had some funds from selling something else available, and that's what I put it back into. So I think it's like you said, Joey, cheap cards can be great too. And I think we should all not lose sight of that, because that's some of the most fun that you can have too, is not paying hundreds for something and enjoying it, So don't feel like you have to get out there and follow. Yeah, as he said, consolidation as a trend movement, FOMO. Don't feel like you have to follow that. Sometimes you follow the path least traveled. At least that's what I try to do a lot of times in the hobby, is like, okay, let me take this lane that nobody's taking because I can get these cards for cheaper. So
to counter that is I do think that, so I might have been the first one on this feed to say the word consolidation when I was talking about like my 2020 approach. I have no idea that consolidation is like a trend right now on social media. And obviously I know all you guys through social media. So I do, and I'll be the first to say that I am like victim to being like influenced by social media. Like, again, like, I mean, one of the reasons that I own this card right here is because I've talked with Adam so much about Bailey Howell, right? And so like I missed out on one of these cards recently. I said to him that I underbid on it. I probably should have been more aggressive, but Adam definitely in a friendly way influenced me like, yeah, that sold cheap, right? So I went a little more aggressive at a second copy. So we are all subject to being influenced by our presence on social media. But if you have a mindful approach to it, I honestly have no concept until right now that consolidation is a trend within the social media feed of things, right? So I think it is also part of like being in control of how you're approaching things, but also being aware that by being present in a community, that community is going to influence you. And if that community is as large as TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, you're getting more of an impactful influence by it, right? So even as much as we might all think like, no, I'm in control of my own destiny, it's input that you're taking from others, right? So I have completely, however I've done it, I'm not saying I've done anything better. I've muted myself to whatever the feed is that consolidation is a trend right now. But doesn't mean that I'm also not influenced by social media and making different decisions based on it. So I think just an awareness of that. And again, we've said it a few times, be aware of why you're collecting, what you want to get out of it. is probably the most important part. And I know for a fact that there's stuff that I could say is super cool, and the most of social media would agree, and Joe and Adam would roll their eyes at me. And Hugo could be on the chat right now saying, "Steve, you're an idiot." And I'd be like, "Yeah, but I'm happy with it," right? So I think just being aware of like how you interact with the space and what your goals are is very important.
I could be completely wrong. Sorry to cut you off there, Joey.
No, you're good.
I don't know that consolidation as like the actual terminology is super kind of top of mind on social media, but what I do see a lot of is people that really push that like only $3, $4, $5, $6,000 cards are cool. And I think maybe that is then portrayed as consolidation is what it takes to get there. Because you see so many people that, like you said, I think before, only post the biggest of the cards, and you follow these pages that only flip cards and they're only in their hands for 2 minutes. So when you see them post what might be a year or 2 years, 5 years of collecting for you in one photo, they don't hold any of it, whereas you do. And that kind of changes the look and the kind of the comparison between everybody. So I do think that I'll agree with you. I've not seen the consolidation trend, but I do see a lot of people that talk about only the big cards. And I'm a type of person where I have cards that are $5 and I have cards that are 5,000. And I love both of them equally. And it doesn't have to be expensive to be cool to me, but there is a time where maybe I look and say, do I really need 15 autos of this person and 6 of them are stickers? I probably don't need the sticker autos, and that's a form of consolidation, but it's not necessarily that they're expensive. It's this UD Black on-card Hall of Fame auto that I bought for $20 means just as much as the next $500 card I buy. So I do think there's something to be said for just not having the quantity when there isn't any need for it, but definitely not getting in the way of price being the only factor that matters. I think that's crazy. There's people I see on here that do talk about looking for a big card, or like that's the parameter that they're looking for isn't a particular card. It's looking for a Jordan over 20,000. Why does it need to be over 20,000? How silly of a quantifier is it that the price is what I'm looking for? So like, to me, it's nothing to do with price, just to be cool, be a cool card. And that's all it has to be. So like, I would like to probably consolidate some of the maybe sticker autos of players I have better versions of and things like that, but it's not because they're bad or that I'm trying to get a $10,000 card. It's just at what point do you have to have all of it? You know what I mean? If I have all of the cards and 10 of them are on card and 5 of them are sticker, I could probably get rid of the stickers unless there's something really special about them. It's my kind of terminology of consolidation, not the turning it into $10,000 cards kind of thing that you do see online.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think probably we could spend an entire hour or two talking about this, and maybe it is an idea to do in the future. But I'll just throw out to like end this idea on consolidation in social media is I hate social media in general, like not hobby social media. I hate social media as a concept, especially how it's designed, how it's developed in like pop culture or whatever. But I do think that it has a huge influence on collectors in the sense that I just think that there's so much is about getting a following now, right? It's like building your following and building your presence and your importance in cards or whatever. And a lot of that has to do probably with consolidation. I'm sure they're related because like nobody cares about us posting those $5 cards or whatever. And I think that's why it sucks that we lost forums, because on forums it was just like you could go on there and talk and post your cards and write an entire paragraph about your $5 card, and there wasn't like on Blowout or whatever, there wasn't the like buttons and the whatever, and it's not like I go and I follow this username on that forum. So yeah, I think it's terrible.
Thehobbyboards.com.
Yeah, and that's why I think we need. Thank you. Good idea to shout it out. Yeah, we need more on the hobby boards, and I need to be on more. I'm sure we all need to, but
I do too. And I noticed there's a bunch of cool topics on there. Just to throw this out real quick, I won't go on long tangent about it, but yeah, get over there if you can, guys. Thehobbyboards.com. A lot of cool stuff going on in the basketball forums, especially. I think that's where probably 90% of people post anyway. But you're right, Joey. I mean, getting back to just sharing like a set, because that back in the forum days, especially back when I first joined like Blowout forums and stuff like that, people were just excited to find something rare. It didn't even matter the cost. It could be $2, it could be $2,000. They were just like, I've never heard of this card. This is a cool card to own, and I'd like to get back to that too. So great point there.
Yeah, and there's a lot of cool stuff that came in the chat, so I'm just gonna highlight all that stuff just in case. But yeah, so the crazy one and Gary were talking about the low end cards, and yeah, that's tough because he's a player collector, is a crazy one. I'm the team collector, so it's like I just want any card of those teams. I mean, there's certain criteria, like I try to avoid sticker autos. I tend to want things with better photos, whatever. But like if it's a nice card, a card I like of my team, it's gonna be hard for me to move it. And yeah, I agree. Like with Gary, it's like I love my sets that are insert sets that I could buy the whole set for $10, but they're just like great cards, you know. And I love Fish 2's dad is here, so welcome. I think I haven't seen him before, but I think we have an idea of who that is that was thrown in the chat. And he also emphasizes how terrible social media is. And I think you mentioned Ryan, Mark's newsletter and blog. So I just want to emphasize that like we need more long form talk about cards. So that's hopefully what we're getting here. The hobby boards through Mark's newsletter and blog, and Hoops Hobby has one too. And like I really, it's hard because you know the appeal of social media and Instagram is that it's so easily accessible and you can jump on for a minute and like 10 posts or look through 10 stories or, you know, even post your own stories. But yeah, it's just like the quality of conversation isn't there. And that quality, if we care about the quality, like that's where it comes is from people that put in the effort to write those long articles. So thank you, Mark. Definitely, if anyone hasn't heard of that, go check it out. Can you throw in the name in the chat again, Mark, if you're still hanging out?
Mark posted, because I was just going to say my final thing is I try to post the direct link to the hobbyboards.com and Mark's feed, and both of them got blocked by YouTube. So I apparently can't put direct links in YouTube. So
we'll share it on IG.
In the comments?
Yeah, in the comments. So but I'm not logged in like you and Ryan are. We don't know you go, but so I have 2 blocked comments, and both of them are direct links. I tried typing them out and copy pasting them, and they both got blocked. So we've had racial comments shared on our feed, but apparently we went through. But apparently you cannot share links on our feeds. So.
Yeah, exactly. Man.
Yeah, Ryan, would you throw those into the like videos you put on YouTube in the description? I feel like
yeah, links below, right? Isn't that what all the influencers say? Links, like, comment, subscribe, and links below.
Comment, subscribe,
right?
yeah.
There you go. Yeah, we'll put some links in there.
And I just want to put the name out there. It's the Choice Collector. That's Mark's feed, the Choice Collector. It's so good. It's so good and well thought out and thorough.
It's a fun daily read. Like I'm so old, I don't know social media very well. I had to like message Mark and ask like what this whole Substack was or whatever it's called that he's into. But I subscribed. You get emails with links. It's a fun. It's basically like an article the way he writes it. So it's a very fun kind of way to engage. So well done, Mark.
All right. I mean, I'd love to keep going. My wife will kill me if I do. I have to go. Do you guys want to cut it off, or are you going to keep going, or what's the deal?
I'm good.
Yep, all good. I think we covered a lot.
All right, perfect. And we can figure out if we're going to continue the conversation next week or beyond. But thank you all for hanging out. It's been tons of fun. I appreciate all the comments and stuff that were in the chat because it made it really interactive and it felt like we were all on the screen. So thank you guys. Have an awesome week. Make sure to check out, like we said, hoopshobby.com, the Choice Collector, and the hobby boards. And then we'll see you guys next week.
Be well, everyone.
See you guys.
See ya.